Hello, good morning. Welcome to Joy News Desk. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlimle. We're on DTT because we're free to wear. Coming up this morning, Joy News' latest yet-to-air expose titled Empty Plates, the Free SHS Promise unveils a grim reality in some senior high schools where many students barely receive a modest and nutritionally adequate meal.
So about the quantity, the jollof too quantity, and then the amount of sauce they serve per table. They are sitting on the table. Very small. Some people don't even get sometimes.
Also this morning, about 250 students of Ejisu Senior High Technical School displaced following a rainstorm that ripped off a dormitory block of the school. Also in this bulletin, we'll be telling you about Ghana's economy that has been on a downward trajectory. That's a conversation coming up this morning with former Finance Minister Setebe. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Do stay for details. Many thanks for choosing us. Let's begin with Ghana's economy that has been on a downward trajectory for some time now. The country's deal with the IMF is expected to help bring fiscal discipline to our financial system and also get the economy to be better. But are we seeing signs of the economy getting better? Well, government says we are on a path of recovery, but former Finance Minister Setebe doesn't think so. Why? He has joined me in the studio for a conversation. Great to have you.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to you.
Good morning to you. And of course, we're going to be talking about our economy, but let me first pick your thoughts. You heard me read that headline, and you saw videos of how the free SHS is having problems with meals being served to our kids in the school. I mean, I'm asking you this because right from the onset, you raised issues of the feasibility or sustainability of this program. Does this come to you as a surprise?
Not at all, because immediately they unfettered, free, because we had progressively fee-free. So let me be clear about that. But immediately the unfettered free SHS was announced. I took the clear position that it was not fiscally sustainable, and that is knowing the numbers. Education was already taken, the largest of the budgets. We had arrears and others which we were then battling to settle, in addition to the Dumso, death, single spine, and others. But even if you took those out, I didn't see how we could bring, all the money that was coming from parents to complement secondary education, how we could substitute that with money from the budgets without borrowing, which was going to be heavy and excessive. And so, I continued tracking, and every year, I made sure, like I do with other indices, I brought out, examples. So for me, the alarm bells was in 2018 or so when we did a bond, either 2018 or 2019. And with most of I believe it's 2019, when most of the buffers we had left had started to dry out, there was a debate whether we shouldn't use the Heritage Fund, to support free SHS. And I protest that we were, investing in future, generations, and that's the purpose of the Heritage Fund. Of course, some of us opposed it. That wasn't the purpose of the Heritage Fund. Thank God it was never. But then we went to the bond market, and in the report to Parliament, we were using 2.2 billion Ghana cedis to support free SHS. This was in the bond report.
Okay.
So the question then is, unless you got revenues, extra revenues going forward, how are you going to be going to the market every year to get 2.2 billion, you know, and likely to increase if you want to provide quality food and the rest to support free SHS. So as I continued every year to use the indices to show that it was, you know, sustainable. Initially, it sounded like sour grapes, but I thought, you know, I would, you know, given the position I occupied and what I do, you know, I better just, you know, continue to express my views on it, just like, you know, bearing bailout costs and energy sector costs and things in footnotes and the rest. So I haven't changed my mind, you know, on free SHS.
Is it going to get worse if we continue like this?
It has gotten worse, and it will get worse because, remember, we are locked out of our own domestic, you know, medium term, that is 3-year bond, 4-year bond market. You know, we've defaulted, we've taken people's savings, we've done haircuts and whatever, you know, and so if revenue was not enough to be sustaining free SHS, and what was sustaining it was borrowing, you know, you are no longer able to borrow domestically, neither are you able to borrow from the external bond market. Then where are you going to get the money to support, you know, the free SHS? And with arrears, you know, from school feeding to all those, it's clearly not sustainable.
Then it brings us to the economy generally. I mean, government says that it's getting better. If you listen to the President Ekufuor in his last State of the Nation's address to Parliament, he said we are on a good path. But you say that's not the case. Why so?
I think that's too quick. Let's look at where the government took us, right? First government to default. You know, we missed default because of HIPIC, debt forgiveness. You know, so we could have learned something from it, which is why we had things like sinking fund and the rest, and say, let's be paying part of our debt. Nobody says you should pay 100%, but for it to be sustainable, you need to be paying something. It was stopped, you know. So we defaulted, the highest, you know, debt to GDP ratio. Inflation, we use Bank of Ghana to finance the budget. You know, again, you can see where the money, you know, some of the money was going, because they were printing money virtually. I mean, even if not, you know, realistically, to support the budget. That wasn't sustainable. You know, we saw where it landed us, you know, reduce both domestic and external reserves, you know, for the central bank. Inflation, you know, very high. We nearly missed first time in nearly 40 years, I believe. Yeah, 40 years, 2023. If you take ERP SAP to be 1983, when ERP SAP, 40 years, we almost went into recession. You know, that's a 40-year record. So I think that before we start talking about we doing well and all that, for a government that held, you know, its predecessor to performance indicators, let's put the indicators in the background. But the reason I say that we should probably make haste slowly is that the criteria for success, and I said this morning in at that show, the criteria for measuring performance or success is narrow. We are talking about, if you take debt, we know. Okay, so let me use the two indicators that are the most popular: your budget deficit and your debt, you know, ratio. As I said, we defaulted. So if we are doing well, okay, what shows? If you come to the deficit, the general definition of a deficit is revenue minus total expenditure. And then you get your deficit. So salary minus, you know, expenses, household expenses. The difference is your deficit, for which you go and get, you know, overdraft, you go and get some temporary loan, or if your expenditure includes heavy items, like if you're in a position like a house, furniture, car, the mortgage, you know, adds to it, right? So obviously you are going to pay over a period of time. So when we take interest interest from that total expenditure, right? Then let me use simple numbers. If your income was 100 and your expenditure was 120, you have a deficit because expenditure is higher of 20. 120 minus 100 is 20. If you take your borrowing cost, interest only, not even the repayment, which is 5 from it, your expenditure becomes 115 and your deficit narrows, right, from 20 to 15. But it doesn't take the interest away, right? Moreover, this is cash in, cash out. But to calculate your real deficit for the household, if you had gone to borrow previously, or if you had even gone, to the market, and so things are tough, for the household today. So can you give us some cassava? Can you give us a few, how come I can pay? Maybe you are trusted. So even we practice credit, right? Right? So if you don't add what you are owing, you're already taking interest for the past loans that you took. And then you are also excluding, the things you bought on credit, right? Which deepens the deficit. That also is out. Okay, that's the deficit side. I'm saying that if we continue to use that measure, which takes out interest payment and takes out, the interest payment and the arrears. And you know that we are sitting on a lot of arrears.
So you're suggesting that there's some responsibilities that government is deferring and just to make the numbers look good?
Well, to be frank, it is a measure that is used, but it is used mainly by middle income and advanced countries who have very good systems, and have their debt, interest and other things under control.
Okay.
Because then growth, when you grow, right, then you know that as I grow, I can meet all these things. And so you can use a primary balance. But what's our record? We grew with 3 oil fields. We grew with the expansion of services sector. We grew with the injection of nearly $10 billion into the economy. If you had COVID loan, the IMF program, which this government took over, the 3 additional oil fields, and all that, right? If the primary balance was going to prove right based on growth, Ghana wouldn't be where it is today. So I'm saying that given the record and the fact that we had previously had a bailout cost, energy costs in footnotes, we should be careful when we are using such criteria because it doesn't tell the whole picture. And we'll be monitoring it. And in fact, the fund shows both. Even though the fund assesses as on primary balance, it shows the fiscal balance, which includes all of this.
So what you're saying is that is by the time that we are ready to come out of the IMF deal, is that when these bills will mature? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, you even bring another dimension which I mentioned earlier. Because remember, you are looking good today, you are taking interest out. You are looking good today on the debt side because the debt has been deferred, right? From 2026, they are going to kick in. So whoever takes over from 2025, late 2025, 2026, and we have not even done the external, restructuring involving the bonds because some of the bonds, like the bullet bonds and the rest, are also going to fall due. So the fact that, one, you've done a haircut, which you call savings, it's not savings. You've taken people's money, with their savings, which they are expecting interest and sustaining, growing their principal. You've taken that, you've had your debt, deferred. You are asking for the remaining debt to be either deferred or even cancelled, right? Yes, it's going to catch up with us, as we are saying. So if you are not making provision for that next government, with all these reliefs you are getting, to pay down part of the debt, okay? And it's a good thing that the first coupon has been paid. Otherwise, it would have added, what you are saying, it would have added to the... Then you're only deferring and kicking the can, for the next administration.
So what? Do you think government is doing this on purpose?
No, well, I wouldn't go that far because that would be, but given the experience that we have had, where some, numbers were put in footnotes where previous governments had put them, and then all of a sudden, despite our Public Financial Management Act, our own law, which was passed in 2016, and the Fiscal Responsibility Act that was passed in 2017, saying that when we calculate our deficit, it should include interest payments, include arrears, right? But the same government that passed those laws, when it said it could perform better than other governments, right? Why should we, in my assessment, you are deferring those things to other governments, and therefore the picture you are painting now may not be complete by the criteria you held other, governments. Remember, there was a time, it said that we had the best performances in Kuma, right? So yes, that's so. Mine is just a caution.
Would you have done things differently given the situation we are in now?
Well, we did things differently. We did things differently because, as I said, we passed the Public Financial Management Act. Today, there's something called payables, which is part of the structural conditionalities, which we were calling the contract database. It means that we want to know our liabilities, right? The government stopped it. It's not a new initiative. It was started in 2010 when I was a deputy. I was put in charge of that. So what we did was to do a census of all contracts that were awarded. If the Minister of Roads brings a certificate for payment and he doesn't give us all the details, we detained it, I called them, and they provided all the information. So we had a best eye view of the contract sum, the arrears, and I know the figures. It was about 13 billion when we left office. With the report that was published because of the IMF program, it's risen to 77 billion. Right? So, yes, we took inventory. Why was that not put in the gift list for the past 7 years? And now it has become a conditionality. That's one difference. Second difference is by 2014, and let me use practical, 2014, we had issued some bonds to pay for the DUMSO, arrears, subsidy and arrears. We issued bonds to pay for the single spine, and they were 3-year and 5-year bonds. So if you did them in 2010, 2011, it means that for the 3 years, by 2013, 2014, and in succession, because you did them annually, and then for the even the 5-year, 2010 by 2015, 2016, these were falling due because we were paying only interest. Okay? Whereas the sovereign bond that we did in 2007, we were paying only interest. So, and it was 2007, remember? So we saw 3 years ahead of us that all these bonds were going to mature from 2017 going. Some had started maturing. That's how come we did a sinking fund. So that's another example. To use our own oil revenue, part of which is new to the budget, to be paying down the debt. In fact, the current administration used 200 million of that money, to pay down, the final installments of the first sovereign bond under His Excellency Kufuor. What did they do? They stopped it. They never, So there are things that we did. For example, we also said that if we are doing a project, what we call the self-financing, if we are doing a project in a sector where the project is going to generate its own resources, especially if it's forex, like airport tax and the rest, let's ring-fence that money instead of allowing the entity, because it's a tax. And that's what we used to do Terminal 3. It is the pressure on the central government to rely on taxpayers to finance every, whether commercial or non-commercial, take loans for commercial or non-commercial projects. Those that can pay for themselves have to pay for themselves.
Okay.
So, Aisha, what I'm saying is that we did things. Under the initiative of His Excellency, President Mahama, and he's promising that we'll continue and probably do more.
Looking at how things are right now, how do you intend to turn the economy around in the event that you're given that power in December?
The first step is to know what's going on, right? And the second is to see whether what is going to happen, right? Should Ghanaians hand over power to you in 2025, we should know the state of the economy. You may not know it 100%.
Are you envisaging some difficulty when power is
there will be difficulty.
Looking at things, the way things have gone?
Aisha, there will be difficulty because, as I said, the debt is being deferred into 2025 and 2020, at least most of it from 2026. So 1 year into your administration, the debt which is being deferred, which you are not paying now, you are going to be paying. And it's good to have a clear understanding that this is what's going to happen. And by using the primary balance, it means that there is no effort on the part of the current administration, despite the flows, to start making provision to pay down some of those debts. Of course, I must consider the ones that are in firm agreements, like the coupon that was just paid for the domestic, obviously because of the, you know how it came about, the demonstrations and the rest. You know, the first coupon has been paid, but you know there's a lot of the interest and the rest. So it's by trying to understand what's going on and not taking things on face value, you know, so that we can, you know, advise our candidates about the problem that is going on. Arrears, as I said, you know, from that publication, which was not done from 2013 until 2022. Why? At least it tells us that we know the contract sum in the system. Of course, this is 2022. And we also know that about 32 billion or so of those arrears have been bundled together and added to debt. It doesn't take it away. So you need to know many of these things. You need to read, you know, the fund program, their outcome, the things they are saying, because they have reservations. They are saying, oh yeah, we're doing well. But in some places, you know, they have their reservations. They point to things which are not so good. An example, the delayed tax, domestic tax system that should strengthen. Do
you have a plan to deal with this situation if power is given to you?
We had a plan, so we are going to even refine it and add new ones. We had a plan. We had plans like what I've mentioned. You know,
but things didn't continue from the way you're saying. Didn't continue. Your plan didn't continue. That means you're going to start from zero, ground zero.
Not in all cases, because what we know is that the giftness is there. Only sometimes it's being, instead of passing all expenditure through it, some of them will not pass through the, you know, but some would have to. For example, we did ICOMS, which is the customs, you know, system. Right, it used to be called a single window. You remember West Blue, and that's what ICOMS today, right? That's the customs part of the GRA tax system. Why for 7 years has the domestic one not been done? That is going to be new, because in the fund program, the government asked for a deferral. You know, something for which a tender was prepared and issued and finalized about a year and a half ago. Right, despite the long delay. So yes, Aisha, we know certain things that we were doing, that contract database payables, which I told you. These were our initiatives, and they were stopped. For those ones who will see the condition in which the database is, the condition in which the IT systems and things are, you know, and then, you know, put them on board. For those that were to be implemented, like Gift List Phase 2, to take care of the accounts payable and the rest, those are conditionalities. So some may be continued because they are conditionalities, you know, but it's our program. You know, it's not a fund that forced it. We were also in a program, but those were programs which we were doing under the homegrown policy.
All right.
And so I'm confident that, you know, I'm not saying it to be easy.
Right. So wish you all the best. And that's the former Finance Minister, Seth Terkper, who says that there's a lot wrong with our economy. And he says that when the NDC takes over power, if they win power in 2024, there will be a lot of difficulties to deal with. But he says they have a plan to deal with that. I'm grateful that you came. Let's get on to other stories. It has come to light that numerous students in some schools across the country are grappling with the harsh reality of barely receiving a single plate of nourishing food. This disconcerting scenario is just one facet of the myriad of challenges that has hit the implementation of the free SHS system in the country. In our latest expose titled Empty Plate, the free SHS Promise, we delve into schools where certain students are struggling to secure even a modest and nutritionally adequate meal. Here are excerpts ahead of the full airing of the documentary.
So that they'll give you Gary, don't give you this. They'll give you beans, they don't give you the curry. So a school that is not having even 900 students is supposed to have 3 bags a day to feed 900 students.
Every night, these children go to bed burdened with thoughts about what they will eat when they wake up to a new day.
It's all about the quantity, the jollof to quantity, very small. And then the amount of sauce they serve per table, they are sitting on the table. Very small, very small. Some people don't even get sometimes.
It is no fault of theirs that the government that promised their parents free education is unable to provide enough food to feed their youthful appetites.
And sometimes kinky. The kinky they give us stew or sugar with no fish.
Empty Plate, the free SHS promise. Coming soon on Joe News.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education has released a statement to the press reacting to a trailer of the yet-to-air documentary saying it is open to addressing cases of food shortage on campus. Ahead of airing the documentary titled Empty Plate, the ministry is also revealing that it has deployed a fact-finding mission nationwide to check the status of feeding on campus. And I will share excerpts of that statement with you. Ministry of Education responding to a recent documentary by Joy News highlighting concerns about poor feeding, embarked on a comprehensive nationwide visitation and monitoring exercise in collaboration with the media. These are the schools visited, and the key findings from the visitation. Schools visited and reports from other schools indicate the maintenance of an adequate stock of food in their storage facilities. There's prompt and up-to-date payment of funds allocated for the purchase of perishable food items to all. It continues to say feedback from heads of schools and students indicates overall satisfaction with the quality and quantity of food being served. And that statement says the ministry is open to remedying any real anomaly found anywhere and reassures parents, students, and the general public of our unwavering commitment to providing adequate, high quality, and timely food supplies to ensure an enhanced free and quality senior high school program. Well, I've been joined via Zoom by Professor of Education Leadership at the University of Cape Coast, Professor George Kweku. And then I've also been joined by Divine, who is Programs Officer at Africa Education Watch. Grateful for your time, gentlemen. Let me start with you, Divine. Your reaction to the release by the ministry. I mean, when the full documentary is yet to air. Surprised by that?
I'm not surprised. I know the ministry wants to preempt you people. So they hurried to town to release that particular press release. But I know the fact is on the ground. The public knows the fact that there are challenges in our senior high schools when it comes to feeding as far as the quality of food is concerned. So I feel, in honesty, the ministry should have acknowledged the challenges than dismissing the challenges all of a sudden. And I know they have also sent media houses to some of the schools for the students to give good accounts of what they have been fed with. I heard some of the videos like that. I think that's not the best way to address the challenges in our senior high school. Addressing the challenges starts with honest acceptance of the existence of the problems. Otherwise, we cannot find a solution to them. So for me, for the ministry to preempt that the documentary like this is coming up and then quickly rushing to town to release that press release, for me, I don't think it's the best. And people will still watch the video and they'll see for themselves that there's an issue. And even beyond that, parents, they have their walls in the school. They are reporting some of these issues to the media houses. And to us at Africa Education Watch, we continue to receive some of these complaints. Parents have called us several times for us to, as part of our advocacy work, to push for the quality of food should be improved in our schools. And we all know this is not the first time that I've been challenged with our food issues when it comes to the implementation of the free senior high school. Everybody knows that as part of the challenges affecting is the quality of food that children are fed with in the schools. So I'm not sure at this point in time we should continue to play the politics around, but rather be honest with ourselves and try to find solutions.
Let me bring in Prof.Oduro. Prof, how does the ministry's posture in addressing the challenges plaguing the free SHS program come across to you?
Thank you, Aisha. When I read the ministry's response, I was wondering why a trailer of a yet-to-air documentary should be responded to by the ministry. And one question that came to mind was what is the ministry smelling? We all know it is a fact, just as my colleague earlier said, that feeding is a challenge in our schools. Some of us are parents, we cater for other family relatives in schools, and we know what's going on. We know that some parents have to go to the extent of contracting some caterers within the school for extra feeding. All these things are there. Perhaps the ministry has responded quickly by supplying food to the schools, and that is why they are coming out with this. But I would have wished that the ministry will wait for the full airing of the documentary for us to see the realities on the ground and then jointly find solution to that. So my response is, I think that this quick response doesn't help matters. For me, it's a damage control initiative, which must not be encouraged.
Well, Divine, I know your outfit, the Africa Education Watch, has done a lot of work around this policy. What do you think is what you find in that trailer surprising? Is it the reality? Can you confirm to some of these things?
Like I mentioned earlier, it is not surprising that we continue to record instances of challenges in our school. It is never surprising. On a daily basis, literally, we continue to receive complaints. Parents send us videos of how their was being fed in schools. And some of the issues are on our decks. And one of your sister stations, we are even also trying to have a collaboration with them to address some of these issues. So for us, it's not a news. More especially when you look at the budget credibility of the Frisna High School being on average, annual average of 70%. What that means is that on average, our budget execution for the policy is around 70%. When you look at it, when compared to the amount that is allocated for the policy implementation per year, averagely we do about 70%. And if 70% of the Frisna High School budget is also expended on feeding, and also budget credibility is at 70%, it tells you that government will continue to be in arrears when it comes to feeding. Mind you, government is no longer using the buffer stock for supplying foods to our school. What government is now doing is to use a new entity, Ghana Commodity Exchange. Why is government doing that? Because government is owing buffer stock, and currently it's done about 200 million Ghana cedis. Because government is owing them. Government went in, and food suppliers under the buffer stock were not ready to supply because government was owing. Government went in to bring in a new supply through a new window. That's the Ghana Commodity Exchange. And our findings also reveal that with this new entity, and the suppliers under this new entity are also being owed. So once the suppliers are continuing to be owed, we'll continue to have the challenge at hand. So it is not surprising, not until we improve the budget credibility for the policy implementation, where 70% goes into feeding, we'll continue to have recurrence of this particular issue. And then also not until we are able to, again, decentralize the feeding to the schools to manage. I think we'll continue to record some of these issues.
Prof, you're also a parent and also as a professor of educational leadership. What do you think can be done to address challenges of this nature, which is facing a policy like the free SHS?
You see, the free SHS itself, the implementation itself has created this problem that we are encountering. And then the mode of supplying food items to the schools has also created a challenge. So in reality, the challenge is there. When I read the release from the ministry, there's a portion that says they've stocked food in the storage facility. There's enough food. But the question I ask myself, if there is food in the storage facility, has that food reached the students? If it has reached the students, what is the quality of it? What is the quantity of it? Actually, the realities on the ground, from what I have experienced, when I read the release, I contacted one teacher in one of the schools. He burst into laughter, very prolonged laughter, and said, "Prof, you see, our heads fear to speak the truth, but things are not going on well." So the realities on the ground do not actually sit well with the reaction of the ministry. It's a challenge. And as I earlier said, I think it would be very helpful for the ministry to cooperate with Joy News, to listen to the full documentary, and then engage stakeholders in finding out how best the challenge can be resolved. It is a big challenge which we cannot play the ostrich with. This is my view about the whole issue.
Well, we'll see how this goes. Definitely that documentary will surely air, and we'll also be monitoring the Education Ministry on how they will resolve these challenges, because parents are unhappy about it. Professor Oduro, I'm grateful for your time. He is a professor of education leadership, and Divine Kwe is also with the Africa Education Watch. Grateful that you joined us, gentlemen. Let's get on to other stories. About 250 students of Ejiso Senior High Technical School have been displaced following a rainstorm that ripped off a dormitory block of the school. The downpour ripped off the roofing of the oldest block of the school, which landed on high-tension cables on the school's main gate. The Krapa SHS and the Ejiso experimental schools also had their roofs ripped off. My colleague Ohemen Teria, who visited the school, says authorities have sought temporary shelter in a warehouse for the affected students.
It is Sunday, the first Sunday of the month, the day set aside by school authorities of Ejiso Senior High Technical School to allow parents and guardians to visit their wards. It comes less than 24 hours that rainstorm devastated the school's oldest dormitory block, ripping off the roof. This means students are not only stranded, but the academic work is disrupted. Municipal Chief Executive for Ejiso, Prof.Oduro, who led officials to visit the school, says efforts are being made to resolve the issue of accommodation for students of Ejiso Senior High Technical School.
The sheets fell on the high tension wires. The ECG people were also here to help remove the wires and to ensure that power is restored to the school. So in the evening, we helped the boys to sleep in one of their classrooms. So this morning, together with the presiding member, honorable members, assembly members here, the PTA chairman, I'd already informed my member of parliament, Dr. John Pontiakuma, who tasked that this morning I come with assembly engineers to come and do the proper assessment so that we can get the estimate for bringing back the roofing. But because the boys slept in the classroom yesterday, that was a temporary measure. We needed to get a place for them this morning. Lucky enough for us, PBC, they have some buildings around. So we contacted the regional manager, and he has given us one of the rooms. At the moment, we are doing the clean-up exercise there to make sure that we put the place in shape to transfer all the 150 boys to the place so they can have a place to put their head.
Saturday's heavy rainfall did not only affect Ejiso Senior High Technical School, but also affected Ejiso Experimental School and that of Krapa MA School. Municipal Chief Executive Prof.Oduro tells Joy News the Municipal Assembly is collaborating with the Member of Parliament for the area to find lasting solution to the issue.
This is the oldest building so far as the school is concerned. It's been here for almost 80 years. So no wonder it was affected by the rains yesterday. We will rely on the report from the engineers, whether we need to pull down the whole building or just maintain the existing one. So this morning we met the entire student population. We have given them all the needed assurance.
There are calls for the school to be closed down temporarily, but Municipal Education Director Kwabena Owusu says school authorities are collaborating with the Municipal Assembly to find an amicable solution to the problem.
They are about to vacate for the semester, but you see, unfortunately this happened. I believe if God should have heard our prayer, we should have prayed that this thing should have happened during vacation, but it never happened so. They are about to have their examinations by the end of this semester. Some of them are going to prepare for WASI. They have to be trained, and because of these issues, it's going to affect them a great deal. You see, they have a lot of syllables to go through. I don't think that they have completed all their syllables for the semester. So we believe that we have to, sit down with the head of the institution, discuss about how best we have to vacate very early for them to go to their various homes. Whereas we also look at the structure and try to put them right.
From Ejoso, for Joy News, Ohime Interior reporting.
An 8-year-old class 3 pupil, Akua Ankuma's dream of becoming a midwife, just like her mother, is gradually fading away as doctors say she needs an urgent bone marrow transplant treatment after she was diagnosed with cancer of the blood cells, leukemia. Akua's mother says the family does not have the resources to raise the $88,000 required for the treatment. She's appealing to benevolent people for support. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
8-year-old Akua lies on a bed at the pediatric oncology unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. The once active tennis player for her school is unable to move any part of her body. She's weak and the clock continues to tick on her deteriorating health condition. Seated by her side holding her hand is her mother, Sharon Nadu Ankuma. Akua's mother, a midwife, has been confined to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital as a result of her daughter's condition. She has been describing the processes leading to Akua being diagnosed with leukemia, cancer of the blood.
So she's very active. She's not a sickler. She has never been diagnosed of any previous illness. She does a day in and day out activities normal. But later part in November last year, I realized she gets this temperature which is on and off. It comes and goes, comes and goes. So in December, when she's going to school, sometimes she will refuse actually. Then there are times she'll tell me she will go. Then I also observe that she's having temperature. Then one day I just saw these lymph nodes. There was one here and one just behind the ears. I thought maybe it's one of those things that will go. And later I saw she's having this yellowish discoloration of the eyes. It was very yellow. So when I saw that, when you see this yellow thing, it's either the liver or the kidney which is at stake. So I just took her to the Children's Hospital where we saw the doctor. We did the tests, we ran the full blood counts. But the WBCs were so high, the white blood cells were so high. And she was also having distended abdomen. It was a little bit bigger than the normal. Then the scan proved that the liver is enlarged, the spleen is also enlarged. Then this yellowish discoloration may be as effect of the liver. So we ran series of tests. We even had some to be sent to India for confirmation. We did something they call the flow cytometry, which came and they confessed it's an acute lymphoblastic leukemia.
Sharon says the family is in urgent need of $88,000, which is the total cost of medical treatment in India.
I don't know how we are going to raise such an amount. And she is also not going to be fit if the bone marrow transplant is not done. Yes, she is growing weaker and weaker by the day.
Here at this ward, I've met Akua's 19-year-old brother, Edward Ivan Denny Ankuma. He says he's surprised his once active sister is unable to move any part of her body now. He's also appealing for support.
No, she's brilliant and active. She's interested in sporting activities. Them support her. They try their best. So she gets well. We also do our part.
Senior resident at the Pediatric Oncology Unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Michael Akboke, says Ikuya needs an urgent bone marrow transplant.
So we have started to treat her as we usually do after confirming the diagnosis, and for some months now it seems the results we're getting is that this type of leukemia is not responding to the regular treatments that we usually offer. So that would mean a more aggressive approach, okay? So that's why we are proposing that as soon as possible, the Ikuya needs to get bone marrow transplantation to have a chance at cure. So as soon as possible. So what we're doing is to do our bit to keep the cancer cells from continuously multiplying. But the earliest we can get her transplanted, the better. Most cancers in children, unfortunately, we can't pinpoint, unlike in adults where we know if you smoke or you take a lot of alcohol or exposure to lots of things. Yes, those are the things we know. But for children, peculiarly, we don't seem to be able to pinpoint environmental contributors to the cancers. We know, for instance, if the child has been exposed to radiation, so things like X-ray, you know, the tests that we do, or CT scans, if it has been exposed a lot, then there is a risk of her getting leukemias. Or if the mother was exposed during pregnancy, there's also a risk of the child getting leukemias. Sometimes there are some genetic factors that the children are born with that predisposes them to getting this cancer of the blood.
We're still live on Joy News Desk. You can contribute to help 80-year-old Ikuya to have her treatment. No contribution is small. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll bring you business.
Hi, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The Ghana Armed Forces is constructing a forward operating base for the military at Anyantirem near Obuasi in the Ashanti region. The project, expected to be executed within 24 months, will provide offices, medical posts, accommodation for all ranks, a multi-purpose hall, as well as logistics installations. The $6 million project, funded by Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi Mine, will contribute to enhancing security in Obuasi and surrounding areas. Here's a report by Clinton Yabua.
The Obuasi municipality has in recent times witnessed illegal mining and its associating criminal activities, hampering the operations of businesses and lives. This reason influenced the establishment of a forward operating base in the Obuasi municipality. The project, fully sponsored by Anglo Gold Ashanti, is in sync with the Ghana Armed Forces' decision to establish a forward operating base at several locations across the country to protect Ghana's land borders and ensure the safety of all persons, infrastructure and investments within Ghana. The forward operating base in Obuasi is designed to contain a force element of about half a battalion. The project will have command and control centers, medical aid facilities, helipad, training sheds, recreational areas, an administration block, quartermaster yard and garage, and workshop. Major General Bismarck Kwesi Ongona is the Chief of Army Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces. He indicated the project, which will accommodate 350 military personnel, will deliver timely intelligence, secured communication and rapid reaction to incidents.
It also reflects the concept of whole of society approach, which is part of the basic ways by which, as a country, we seek to attain the ends of our National Security Strategy 2020. This forward operating base is but one of several others to be built across the country, mainly along the northern frontiers. The capabilities that the forward operating base will deliver include timely intelligence, secured communications, physical protection, robust deterrence, and rapid reaction to incidents.
Acting Managing Director of Anglo-Gold Ashanti, Awe Free, says the forward operating base forms part of its social economic development plan for improving social responsibilities for communities in Ghana. He reiterates the facility will tackle mining crimes affecting the operations of Anglo-Gold Ashanti.
Our engagements with the Ghana Army dates to 2030, when military personnel were deployed to the Obuasi mine to support the mine security. At Anglo-Gold Ashanti, we recognize the impact of the safety and the security of the communities on the community's property. Embarked on an ambitious social performance journey with the successful implementation of a 3-year social management plan from 2019 to 2021.
Chief Executive for the Obuasi Municipal Assembly, Elijah Adansibona, says the AGA's supported project is fit for purpose.
It's a good thing for us because those of us who were born in Obuasi, those of us who are leaders of Obuasi will testify to the fact that if we don't have military or if we don't have security, there's no way AGA can operate and operate well.
Anglo-Gold Ashanti recently commissioned a modern district police headquarters in Obuasi and provided vehicles and other logistics for the police to aid their operations. Reporting for Joy News, Clinton Yabo.
Now, business organizations and entrepreneurs have been urged to invest in corporate social responsibility projects as a way of empowering communities that support the operations. According to entrepreneur Nyamize Dime, fostering CSR is critical towards achieving the vision of creating a middle-income economy by 2030. She spoke to Joy Business after a donation to the Nyamidua Children's Home.
Corporate social responsibility, according to some business experts, can help businesses better engage with customers. Nyamize Dime said businesses can no longer operate with the sole aim of making profit at the expense of the environment, society, economy, and employees.
I think that, when you sow a corn, a kernel of corn, it comes out and it becomes a cob. Imagine the number of kernels that are on a cob, then the whole plant. So it's God's principle in nature is that once you're giving that seed to sow, it must germinate and grow and touch other lives. And so if you're an entrepreneur, yes, you're making money, but that money is not just meant for you and your family, even for your staff. There are so many levels of philanthropist things you can do in your workplace. For instance, can you put a gym in your workplace? There are people who work with you who have hypertension, who have issues. That one thing can save a life.
Customer satisfaction and employee retention are said to be the keys to any successful business.
And that's it for this segment. The news returns after the break. Welcome back to Joy News Desk. And the Ministry of Finance has urged President Akufo-Addo to refrain from signing the recently passed Anti-LGBTQ Plus bill into law. In the press release issued on Monday, the Finance Ministry cautioned that such action could lead to severe repercussions on the country's financial support from international organizations like the Bretton Woods Institution. The statement highlighted concerns that the expected $300 million financing from the first Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy Operation, currently awaiting parliamentary approval, might not be disbursed if the bill is signed into law. Additionally, ongoing negotiations on the second Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy Operation amounting to $300 million could be suspended. The ministry emphasized these potential outcomes could result in a significant loss of financial resources. And that's how we wrap up the bulletin this morning. My name is Aisha Ibrahim, and log on to myjournalline.com. There's more of the news to enjoy our programs.